going around the globe for the gospel of Jesus Christ. Welcome to God's View.
Will soon become new from God's view.
Hello and welcome to God's View. We're so glad you joined us today. Wow. Now we have somebody else that has been added to the table, and it's going to be so extraordinary, this story. You do not want to move. You want to hear this powerful story, and you want to share it with people. Call people, tell them, tune in and watch God's View. We've got a powerful testimony today. And when we're going through the program, please remember to call those prayer lines, 307-637-PRAY. That's 7729. Don't go through things alone. So many people have gotten their breakthrough. Won't you be one? People have gotten out of wheelchairs, walk home healed. I mean, people raised from the dead. I mean, we have had some phenomenal things that have happened through God's View. Be one of them. Be one of them. You're anonymous. We don't know you. You don't. You know us because you've been watching us. But we won't know a thing. And I want to get right to the program because I want to save every minute. Savor every minute today. I'm Charlene Back-to-Marion, your God's View host. We have Stephanie Besh, Priscilla Pruitt, and we have back with us that we will be interviewing, and I will get to him in a minute, Hanan. And Hanan Hamada King. Thank you again. We love you so much. You're
so
doing
much
a phenomenal job.
Amazing.
Job. You'll have to go back. There's show 1 and show 2, and then this will show. And then, that'll be, we have part 1, 2, and 3. And then let us introduce to you this phenomenal man of God. And when you hear his story, you will know exactly what I mean. Can I have the camera back on me? And you will know exactly what I mean when we give you this story and when they give you their story. Just a phenomenal heart. I mean, you just don't come across hearts like that every day. And when you hear the story, you'll know exactly what I mean. So thank you for joining us. We are going to introduce to you right now Wayne King. Yes, Wayne King. Okay, you can put it on Wayne now. All right. Okay, there we go. Yay! So you're going to start, Hanan, because you're going to give us a little background because you were married prior to him.
Yes.
And then, and it wasn't the happiest marriage.
No.
And, and you didn't marry for love.
That's right.
But this, you married for love. For love. And we're going to hear about it. So tell us a little bit, and then we'll hear Wayne's part of it, too.
I'll tell you how God put us together.
Yes, let's do it.
Like I said, there was a lady that was supposed to be roommating with me while I was teaching in this group. And they changed the lady the last minute. Thank God, because the girl that came to be with me, her name was Lida Noble, and she came from Lexington, Kentucky, and she saw me sobbing all night because my ex was getting married to this woman that was 40 years younger than him, and I was crying all night. And in the morning, she told me that God has someone for you.
Didn't she tell you, quit crying? You're crazy.
Yeah, she told me that I'm crazy because I'm crying, and she couldn't believe that a person, after what I went through, I would be crying for that. Right. So then when we got back home, I was supposed to go teach in Hawaii, and I was preparing, and I only had 2 more days to go. And she calls me from Lexington, Kentucky, and she tells me I'm coming down because she had tried to get me to date a friend of hers in the church, but we don't date, I told her. So she gave up on that. So she found another way to do it. So here she said I would not stay long, and she came down, and so she was doing it on the computer. And I said, what you doing? She said, I'm putting you on eHarmony. I said, what do you know about me? I said, well, move, let me help you. So anyway, I did it. With her. She put me on eHarmony, and she paid for it. And then when I got
eHarmony is an online dating, correct?
Online dating line.
Yes.
That she said, I don't have to date. So, so I didn't understand.
Yeah, I don't have to date. Just pick.
So anyway, my
have
sister
to
found
date,
out
just go on.
that I am on eHarmony and doing it that way. She went out of her mind and she started talking. She wanted to be on it so she can cancel, tell me, cancel. She kept telling me. Well, I have to tell you this one, though. There was a guy that his name was, I told you.
Killer.
Henry Killer. Henry Killer. He was a banker. And she saw the name, Killer. She said, what? And that's when she went crazy. And she said, cancel all these people. So anyway, started canceling people. And then, to make this story short, I had to come back to Jackson because my house was going to sell. I didn't put it on the market, but it was supposed to sell by a friend of mine that they said they're supposed to sell. So that brought me back to Jackson after I finished teaching in Hawaii. And then on December the 4th, they hooked me, eHarmony, with Dr. Wayne King, who was a dentist. So then I got on there and then I started reading. And him and I are so much alike. My sister read that and I thought, oh, they're so much alike. And she said, don't cancel him, keep him on.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
You can keep that one.
Okay. So to get into this part too, which is phenomenal. So you have this abusive marriage, you meet him, they put you on eHarmony, all this kind of stuff. And then you guys get married, of course.
Yes.
You're still married. And how many years now? 17? Did you say?
17 years.
17 years. And so
Went like a day.
yeah, it went like a day. Yeah, 52 for me. Yeah, and so it went like a day. And it really is true. It's
It is.
When you're in love, it's wonderful.
Exactly.
Yes.
But if you're miserable, you know it takes like it's 100 years. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, well, you know that from the difference
Yeah.
from your first
Yeah.
to your
But
second.
I had to go
So-
through this to come to Christ.
Yes, yeah, and
Purpose.
God uses everything, doesn't He? So, her husband's really mean. Anyways, let's get to the story where you ended up literally taking care of the man because, of course, it was the father of her children. You end up marrying her. He gets very ill. And then you can tell us how about going to Lebanon and getting them and all of this. Because you literally, what a man of God, took care of the man, her first husband,
In our
when
home.
he was dying in your home.
It's amazing.
Yes. Well, basically, we had been to Lebanon several years before, 16, 17, 18, 19.
Was that trying to get him because he was sick to get him to come
Well,
here, or what?
doing mission work as well.
Oh, mission,
in the,
okay.
in the meantime too, but we would always try to get him to consider coming home to be with his own children.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do that, and many times he would indicate that he wanted to do that, and he intended to do that, but something always kept him at the last second. I mean, it's like usually other women, but anyway.
So he was a
was,
womanizer, it seems like.
Wow.
Yes,
and
there
was
was
married to
living
somebody
from
40 years younger,
Filipinos.
and that wasn't enough.
Philippines with him, living with him.
But anyway, so it turned out that his at the end in 19 he committed to come, as he had years past, but and at the last minute again he was trying to back out, and we were with him, and his cousin, one of his relatives, came over and convinced him that really he did need to come home and be with his family.
And our son was with us. And his
Yeah,
daughter.
and his son was with us, and he convinced him too. So we all got to the airport in just enough time to get wheelchairs to go through the airport and pretty fast, because it backs up really early in the morning because when the planes leave. So, but anyway, we made it back over here, and at that time, his son wasn't. His daughter lived in another city, 100 some odd miles away. So. His son was working at ER physician, so he wasn't really able to take care of him, but he refused to be alone. So it's not like he could just go over to his son's apartment and stay there, and so somebody had to take care of him, so we did. He came to our house.
He did.
Just
And
phenomenal.
Wow.
he had bad knees, so he really couldn't go up and down. We have 3 bedrooms upstairs in our home, but we made him a place to sleep out of a fold-out sofa bed that we had in the back den, and so he stayed there for us. But like I said, it was difficult because he didn't really want to be alone any time. And so it was just service to the Lord, really, more than anything, because
Was he kind to you?
Yeah, for the most part, he was understanding, and he was.
Be. I mean, good.
He had nobody.
Yeah, and so he, for the most part, I think understood that I was here to take care of him. Sometimes I had to lean on him kind of hard, and he called me a sergeant, but for making him take a bath or shower.
Because they feel so
of him.
sick, probably. That,
Yeah.
So anyway, but we got through all that, and
He's
like
the
I
one
said,
that took care of him, not me.
Yeah, and so it just worked out that was the best thing that needed to happen at the time. So we were able to do that for him. Wow. And then he went and he was in a hospital not long after that. And so all his family gathered around. So we got all the grandkids and kids and all to come say goodbye. And because he had said, he finally one time he said to me, he said, "I don't need to be here anymore." I'm like, I said, "Well, that's fine, but you're going to be here until your son and your daughters and grandkids get here. So plan on staying here for a little bit longer."
Good.
And he did. He did.
But he was. How did he get born again? Did you guys bring him to the Lord? How did he
had all his life. He said he was, and he was a Bible teacher. He went to Dallas Seminary and all. But when he was in our home, we've really faced him with all what he was doing and saying that how could you really say you are a Christian
with all these
and all that
yeah.
stuff. And he started crying. He started crying. And he listened to that.
I'm so glad you
I was listening to him a lot.
Well, because he was abusive and he was a womanizer, and even when you were married with him, he divorced you to be with a woman who was 40 years younger, even though you were 20 years younger than him.
Exactly. And so
he
another
already
Druze
had-
woman. She was not a believer.
Wow.
A Druze woman.
So obviously his actions weren't really that of a
See,
believer.
it shows
No.
the perverted spirit
No.
that was operating
Was
in
not
his
a
life.
believer.
Because a perversion isn't just sexual, but it comes to pervert and twist any kind of truth in your life
Yes.
to keep you,
Exactly.
from truth, from the fullness. He thinks he's operating in that. But another thing, what a powerful story, because here your new husband's taking care of your old husband that abused you, and that
He bathed him. He helped him to use the bathroom. Everything. Fed him.
So, but on top of that, the Lord used you to bring Hanan's mom to the Lord.
Oh, tell him
Tell
them about
No,
that.
it's
Tell them
powerful.
about that, please.
Well, in 2000, this was actually a little earlier, in 2006, we went over to Lebanon to see her family, and then her mom.
Tell them what my mom said to you when she looked at you.
Well, she said, "You're so godly, You're my godly daughter."
That's
she was precious.
yeah.
But anyway, we did. I took the Passion of the Christ and showed it to her, and she knew 5 languages, read and write. So she knew that.
smart
So
lady.
you know how in Aramaic, which is Old Arabic, I think, that's what the Passion of the Christ is actually spoken in verbal. But you can get it closed captioned in a lot of different languages. And so she was sharp enough at 91 to
91.
She was 91.
When she came to know Jesus.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and she was very much aware of everything.
Wow.
And she
Tell
was
them what she told you.
Well, she was sharp enough to understand that the closed caption she was reading in English were not the same Aramaic that they were having spoken.
Translation was off.
And so they're like, well, why aren't they translating it
Wrong.
right? They're not.
My goodness.
I mean, she was sharp as a tack.
Wow.
So I had to say, well, I tell you what, let me just stop, put it on pause, and I'll tell you what, the backstory on all that. And so I did, and made her understand that there were political, religious reasons why it needed to be that way, why Mel Gibson made it that way on purpose. But he actually did have them say in Aramaic what Matthew, the writer of Matthew, wrote and said they said.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was very, very powerful to her to make her understand the hows and whys behind that, how that differences occurred and was made, and then
When you're intelligent, you want to know every little.
she was really sharp, and so but then like you said last
Yeah, when
time
we came back,
then we came back about there was a war in Lebanon, and we came in beginning of beginning of May, and we left the middle of June of 2006, yes. And then there was a
it was going to blow really bad.
Between down south and up north, and they wound up opening the runway actually again and fixing everything so that we were able to come back for when her sister called and said she's in the hospital with GI disturbances and doesn't look very good, so she's going to go. So we prayed the Lord to let us get back in time to say goodbye.
And to bring her to Jesus.
That was good.
Yes.
Well, he already brought her to Jesus, but listen to
she
this.
She came in June, May or June.
Yeah,
she
May
came.
and June. But then we had to come back.
But we came back in September, and was able to.
So did you lead her to the Lord? I didn't catch that part. Did I? Did you catch
Through
it?
the Passion of Christ.
During the Passion of Christ, afterwards you led her to Jesus.
Right after that, remember the time she
went to
told
get the
about
ladies
the
from
ladies that came
Starbucks.
from Starbucks to
Oh,
pray
so
with
that
her.
all went in with that.
That went all
And
in.
we
Came to
knelt
your
down.
house.
Yeah,
Came to
her
her
house.
mom's.
Because I
Okay.
understand that.
So let me recap. So you were at Starbucks while he was showing the movie The Passion of the
No,
Christ.
we were
No, yeah,
the
'cause
day
it's-
before. We were showing the Passion of Christ to her, and she heard everything and she understood everything. And then, and we have to tell them what she said also. That she had
Yeah,
a
we
dream,
gotta-
and
yeah,
she
we gotta-
said she saw Jesus in the sky. She said that. Then we go the second day, and in Starbucks, he really went to Starbucks to talk to his office. His office was still open in Atlanta. And he was talking to the lady in his office because he needed to talk to them. And that's when the two girls came in, and I left him and went and sat with the girls to tell them if they, what are they doing here in the United States. They're looking for Hanan. And that's when I told them, you're gonna come to, I told them where the house is, and they're gonna come and eat with us. And they said, well, we're coming, I said, no, this is the one God wants you to come to. And we told them the address and everything. And then I called my mom's maid, and I asked them what they like to eat. And they like Lebanese food. So I called the maid and told her what to cook for them the second day. And so the second day, we're planning to be with my mama over there, and the food, and everything. And so we go over there, and at first when we enter there, all my mom's friends that were Muslims were there. And so we went to the room, the back room, Wayne and I, and we prayed that they would leave so we can bring my mom to Christ.
Wow.
And over there, you don't kick people out. They're
No.
very,
Just stay, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
stay.
Yeah.
So we prayed, and then they
America's
left.
like, get out. It's
Yeah.
like,
And the beautiful two American girls showed up with flowers and everything. And we come in and we eat and everything. And then you tell them what happened. You want to tell them?
Well, you're
Okay. And so, and then they said to my mom that we saw your daughter and her husband at Starbucks, and we're here in Lebanon. We'll do mission work, missionaries. And my mom understood because we already have been talking to her. And Hanan, your daughter, told us that you wanted to accept Christ. And mom said yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Praise
Yeah.
God.
And then all of us, the four of us, and my mama, and her maid comes back in from the kitchen because I had won her to the Lord the year before. And she's been praying for my mom.
Oh my goodness.
So okay, so this is a really great part of your story. You've been through the abuse and all that, and you meet this wonderful guy on eHarmony.
Friend of the
That
Lord.
you don't date.
Yes.
You don't date, but this girl put you on dates. So this was really wild to me when you said this. You wanted to marry her because you didn't think you were going to be around long. Hey, leave her a widow. I'm like, what? I didn't get all that, but I thought it was pretty funny. So let's hear about that story since we have a little bit of time.
Well, what happened with that was, first I told her, I said, I was a mercury-free dentist, okay? So there's not many of those guys around, or didn't used to be, and there's a lot more now. But I told her, I said, can I take a picture of your mouth, X-ray? And she said,
Romantic.
she said, well, okay. And so I did, and I saw a whole lot of amalgam in there. Like, oh no,
Mercury filled.
silver fillings. I'm like, so I said, well, the girl I'm going to marry, I'm going to have to take out all of her mercury fillings. And she ignored me, act like she didn't hear that part, And then I called her up on the phone later, and I said, well, didn't you hear me? I said I was going to take all your fillings out. You're like, when are you coming down, to Atlanta? And so everything worked out. She finally came down.
And stayed with a family from Canada.
Okay. And then right after that, I was told I needed to get checked out for my heart. And so I went down to Miami and had a surgeon down there check me out, stem to stern, MRI, CAT scans, everything. And he was kind of concerned because he said, yeah, your other cardiologist was right. You're probably going to need a valve job, so I need a mechanical valve. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was I had an aneurysm on my aorta, which, as it turned out, as soon as he opened my chest wall, that's what was holding, my chest wall was holding it together. So it blew in his face. So I had about 2 minutes to live, and all your blood's on the floor, and you're gone. And so 99 out of 100 don't make that one.
But he convinced me to marry him before he had to go down.
Yeah, I said, but I think I'll get well quicker if we're married than if we're not. And she said, well, that wasn't really romantic, but okay.
That really wasn't romantic, but that's okay.
It's a good story now, though.
Yeah.
Well, it is romantic. She gave you reason to fight for
That's
life.
great. Yeah.
Yes,
I think
you
I'll
had
get
a
better
prayer
quicker if you
warrior.
marry me.
About 10 days later, that's when I had my surgery.
That's quite the line.
That's quite the line, yeah.
Maybe that's one somebody should use.
So God saved my life, and
He
she was
saved
on
your
their
life.
knees praying for me, and I wanted an angel praying for me for sure.
Yeah.
And God, against all odds, saved my life because, like I said, most of them don't make it. So I kept working. I stopped working then, but I needed to keep the practice going to have something to sell if I was ever going to be able to sell it. And God sent the right guy about 3 years later. So I set the patients up, and somebody else came and actually did the work during those 3 years. And then,
And she had explained that you got that because you had handled Mercury through your dad, who was a dentist, correct?
yes, that's true. That's true.
He mixed
Yes.
it with his fingers.
Even when I was a teenager, I used to help my dad as a dentist and be his dental assistant. And so I knew all about it, but of course, but we were just taught in school that
Man, you wouldn't even have to
That
go to
was
school.
safe.
the mercury was safe. It was locked into the filling.
Right.
And so I just believe what I was taught in school, everyone did and does. And so until I learned differently. And so then I changed and, didn't want to put it anymore.
God's faithfulness.
Faithfulness.
Incredible.
Yes.
When you hear your story and then you hear your story and then how he brought you two together.
Yes, it's
And
amazing.
then that Jesus
Miraculous.
just started going all through the
Yeah.
families and,
Family.
the restoration.
Yes,
And
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
So
Right.
awesome.
Yeah.
And my
Right.
kids love him. He's a great dad to them. They
That's
love him.
amazing.
yeah.
So
that's
we couldn't
priceless.
wait. I couldn't wait to get near her son. He's the golden boy, really, because he's just so for the Lord, and he'd chip off of his
They've
own.
been asking him to be the congressman from Tennessee, congressman, and he accepted. I mean, he's been saying no, but he accepted. Now he gave it to his friend. He didn't want to. Now they're asking him to be the medical chief of
Commissioner
Tennessee.
of Health for the whole state of Tennessee.
But he specializes in 5 things. He's a very smart
Well,
and a
the
very
Lord, no.
loving.
Yeah, I know.
God.
But he was bleeding from here, remember? So
Yeah,
he was,
the
yeah.
glory has
He's
to go
a
to
miracle.
Jesus. He couldn't have been
Yeah,
smart.
right.
He got Jesus. Everybody got Jesus, and you have to go back and listen to part 1 and part 2 of their story because, even Hanan Hamada King, which you're listening to right now, and you've got to get her book too, Lover of My Soul. You got to get that book. You can go on her information across the bottom of the screen and get it. And it's just fabulous, and tells a lot.
It's
even
under
her
Hanan
daddy was a
Hamada only.
Hannah Hamada.
Under
okay.
Hanan Hamada.
Yeah, but if they go to your email, they'll
Yeah,
know that
yeah.
it's your book. And so, even her dad was a doctor and a personal doctor to the king of Iraq. And there's so many things in her family. And then she got Jesus. Jesus shows up to her in a dream. That's where you got to watch the first and second part because he shows up to her and then she has to go to her daddy, which is a really loose Unitarian religion, which is Druze. And you'll have to learn all about that in the book. And through the show, she explains some of it, and she tells her daddy, Jesus is God. Well, he didn't think that was so great and so cool, but you can listen to the story on number 1, 2, and 3. What would you guys say right now for somebody who's really broken or just needs the Lord? Because we got a couple minutes, and then we don't even have a couple minutes, a minute and a half. You can look in that camera, you guys can pray, or you can say whatever is on your heart, but we got to go quick.
I guess the main thing would be if you feel, it's been said, if you feel like you're, are distant from God, He's not the one that moved, obviously.
Yes.
So you need to find Him in the sense that He already knows where you are, of course, and so He will, if you just talk to Him and ask Him, He will show Himself real to you, like He did my wife and
her mom.
And her mom.
And her dad.
Tons of other people in the
Yes, and a lot of Druze already.
A lot of Druze already.
And the Lord, if you're feeling defeated also, the Lord said He's your rock and your fortress, your deliverer, and God is your strength.
Yes.
And in Him you shall trust. And He is your shield, your horn, your salvation, your stronghold. And He is really wanting you more than even you're thinking you need Him. He wants you. He died for you. He gave Himself to you. He shed His blood for you.
Yes. And with that, that's perfect. Thank you for joining us today. We are so grateful. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm telling you, thank you both so
You're
much.
quite welcome.
It was powerful. Listen, if you don't know Jesus, that's what it's all about. I mean, I'll tell you. There is no life, and in Him we live and move and have our being.
Yes.
The Bible is real. There's no way that in Isaiah 61 it could talk about Jesus and the Spirit of the Lord is upon Him. And then in Luke 4:18 He's opening the very scroll about Him, standing in that very prophetic word in the synagogue because He is real. They couldn't known that 1,600 years later and be saying the exact same thing that happened. Jesus is real. I know people, they say, well, you guys just use that as a crutch. Well, let me have the crutch then, because He's real, He is alive, and He wants you just the way you are. And I've heard this so many times that, lady, Jesus don't want me. You don't know what I've done. Yeah, He knows what He knows. What you, it doesn't matter if I know. He knows what you've done, and He don't care. He wants you just the way you are. Don't let the devil lie to you another minute that God doesn't want you and He doesn't love you. He came while we were yet sinners, a mess. And yes, He does speak to sinners, or none of us would be saved. I've heard silly Christians say, God don't speak to sinners. Well, then I guess I'd have never been saved because I was one of the most. And I'm sure there's many others. It's foolishness. Don't believe that. If anybody ever said that to you, Jesus wants you. He loves you. He died for you. And if you say that prayer, you don't even have to say exactly what everybody says, like I tell many times, confess with your mouth, believe in your heart, merge those two, you're saved, ask Him to forgive you of your sins. All that's fine and dandy, but I'll tell you what, if you're broken and you can't say that, He knows. If you call on His name, He'll come in. And then ask Him to be baptized with the Holy Spirit and fire. Man, the time's going fast. And then call 307-637-PRAY so we can pray with you. Please go to our website today. Help us keep coming into your home and around the world with the gospel of Jesus Christ. This is $20 or more love gift, and it keeps us coming into your home. It's phenomenal anointing oil. It's so great. The pearl in there for your great value. The Rose of Sharon cap. And we got to pray that we can get some more of those bottles. Help us, agree with us, okay? That isn't, all heaven again. It's your birthday if you just got saved. This is your new birthday. You were just truly born again. Yeah, with the Spirit. Remember, God loves you. He really does. We love you, but Jesus really loves you. Remember, God does have a view. God does have a view personally for you. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited.
Going around the globe for the gospel of